Recording in progress.
All right, well, it is 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if I could please have a roll call.
Supervisor Alexavian.
Here.
Trustee Dean Morelli.
Here.
Trustee Greg Vickus.
Here.
Trustee Kieran Johnson. Absent. Trustee Denise Salvino. Present. Highway Commissioner Jim Louch.
Here.
Collector Jessica Candidate. Here. Attorney Gary Mueller.
Present.
Thank you. So first item on the Road and Bridge Fund agenda is we do need the approval of the minutes for the monthly meeting of July 9th, 2024. I will need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Denise Salvino.
Second.
Second by Greg Vickus. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the bills. I have bills in the amount of $127,893.65. I will need a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Denise Salvino.
Second.
Second by Greg Vickus. Any questions on the bills?
Alex, I just had one. Jim, there was a bill here for the attorney, I believe, for a non-disclosure agreement with the city of Joliet.
Yeah.
Basically, what is that?
Basically, it has to do with the Lake Michigan Water Project. I know, usually this evening, it could probably explain it better than I can, but they asked me to sign this. I signed it. They haven't returned their copy of their portion back. I don't know if the clerk will receive this when they do. But as they look down on Gaylord Road and looking to do things with the transmission lines, they'll be digging on the road eventually and right away. So there were some questions, some shared information and collection of information, and I guess everybody is not supposed to put that out to the public. Not so much a public meeting.
Oh, as far as
Any of the data they're collecting,
for the water that's going to go to Joliet.
Yeah.
Michigan. Okay. I don't know if that's.
This is the actual document.
Exactly on this side.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's from whoever's doing that water.
City of Joliet. The engineering company is going to handle the non-disclosure.
Like I said, it's a little confusing.
Well, and that's why I sent it to the attorney, because I held off that initially, and I thought, that doesn't make sense. Why can't we talk about something that's being dug up on the road? Then they went into how to collect the information and whatnot, and the attorney called them, and that's what that was all about.
Makes sense. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if I could please have a roll call.
Sabian.
Yes.
Salvino. Yes. Vickus.
Yes.
Morelli.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on, do we have any citizens wishing to address the board tonight in regards to the Road and Bridge Fund? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Highway Commissioner's report. Commissioner Louch, the floor is yours.
Not much to report other than the projects that we had mentioned earlier at the Centennial Committee. They're moving along. Vine and Gray, the new water mains are getting put in. Drainage put in Fairmont, and they're moving along. That's all. Nothing else to report.
Okay. Thank you. I have no other business to discuss. Does anyone else from the board have any last minute questions or comments? Hearing none, if I could entertain a motion to adjourn the Road and Bridge Fund meeting.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Salvino.
Second.
Second by Greg Vickus. All those in favor? Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We'll move on now to the town fund meeting. First item on the agenda for the town fund is we have two sets of minutes. One is the monthly meeting for July 9, 2024. The second is release of executive session minutes for January 22nd, 2024. I will need a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Denise Salvino.
Second.
Second by Greg Bickus. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the bills. I have bills in the amount of $325,106.96. I will need a motion to pay the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
I have a motion by Greg Bickus.
I'll second.
Second by Denise Salvino. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, I please have a roll call.
Salvino? Yes. Morelli?
Yes.
Bickus?
Yes.
Sabian?
Yes. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board tonight in regard to the town fund? Hearing none, we move on to the clerk's report. Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Basically, the report today, I've passed out early voting hours and times, times and days. We've been pretty busy getting everything organized. This is going to be probably the biggest amount of people we're ever going to see. We have a fourth iPad that's been given to us to service the public quicker, which I did mention last month. And I picked all the hours, the days. We're going to be along matching with the county, except for on Halloween. We are going to end at 4. But all the other times we're going as long as the county is going to go. Staffing, I'm adequately staffed. We're going to have 2 ballot counters, so we will have 5 people in there at all times, in addition to Jessica and I, to be able to afford people lunch times and breaks. And we could possibly see up to 10,000 people in the 2 weeks, which is really exciting. We have also finally got a form if anybody needs to fill out for vote by mail application, so they can either stop in or they can call the Will County Clerk's office for that. And of course, you all know every month I talk about diapers and notary. It hasn't stopped. It's definitely been very busy with back to school. There's been a lot of residency verifications and different things going on. So we've been staying very busy, staying on top of things. And we're going to be also making sure for uniformity that everyone is identifiable with, having a township shirt on while they're working for me, and believe me, you'll see them, but of course they're neon. So if anybody has any questions about anything, let me know. But we're going to begin October 21st, and we'll go that first week, 8:30 to 4:30. That Saturday is 9 to noon, and on the second week, you can see, like I talked about, we went to 7. We will have to manage, we'll have utilization of the whole community room, and we're going to manage the line to make sure that at one point, it has to cut off. But with the new iPads, we can still accommodate everybody that's in the building. But then once, our hours are done, we then have to have someone also there to work the door, which is good on a Saturday, that I do not also have to have the office open. So that is it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Do we have any comments or suggestions from the trustees tonight? Hearing none, move on to the building report. So first item on the building report, so the new garage. I did want to, regarding the garage, quick reminder that the garage went out to bid on June 14. I brought this up at the June meeting and also at the July 9th board meeting. So that week of July 9th, I did finally have a contract, a standard AIA contract, that both the architect and the attorney reviewed. That contract was finalized towards the end of July and was recently signed. The contractor has currently acquired the bond. They are working on acquiring a permit with the city. And they advised me very recently that a surveyor will be out later this week or early next week to take measurements soon. Other than that, I have no other updates, but I will pass on the updates as quick as I receive them. Moving on to comment installation. So if you all may recall that at our June board meeting, we did have a gentleman come in to talk about installing some new light fixtures at both the township and at the highway department. Those installations are now complete. We will be getting the invoice for that soon. Another update I have is regarding the recent power outage. So I did send the board, I did send the trustees and the clerk an update via email, but long story short, on July 16th, which was one of the main days that the power went out across several cities in the township, the township's power went out at like 3 a.m. The fire department was on the scene. However, my staff and I were here very early in the morning. There was still no power, so unfortunately we did have to chain the doors open manually because I found out we do not have a backup generator. We were able to open up the township in the afternoon at 1 p.m. After, again, working with the fire department. Unfortunately, having a backup generator caused some issues, specifically with the sprinkler system and the fire alarm system. So that we had to bring in, and that cost us a little bit of money in repairs. So I do think we need a backup generator. What I've done is I reached out to a grant writer that works with the county. I think because one, we're a government entity, and we have critical services like general assistance, but we also house entities like the food pantry, Meals on Wheels. So I do believe we would qualify for a grant that would certainly at least fund partial, if not complete, amount for that installation of the generator. So I had to recently submit a letter of intent, which I've done recently, but that process may take a couple of months. Hopefully there's no power outages.
We also considered a cooling and warming center. I know at one point we were.
So here the thing is, now one of the requirements is you need to have a backup generator to be cooling and warming center.
Right.
So we can't. That's also one of the reasons I didn't include that in the Senate report. We're not technically a cooling and warming center. So, yeah, even though we were only closed for a couple of hours, the food pantry and Meals on Wheels, because they have food items and the refrigeration was down, they did have to transport them to other vehicles just to make sure the food didn't spoil. So I do think it's important for us to have a generator, but again, I will look through other avenues before we look into using our reserves. Another building update. So flood basin, wetland, and the parking lot. So if the board may or may not be aware, but it's been a couple months, maybe even years already, but back when the building was bought and we received the concept plan, and we also received a concept plan when the garage was being designed, but we discovered, right, that the 7 acres of township property, not all of them are readily accessible or are able to be used, mainly because there is a flood basin that goes through almost directly across the entire property. Thankfully, it doesn't cut through any of the portion of the garage or that area, but that restricts our ability to build on the property. Now, I reached out to land use, and fortunately, land use said that it is only a 500-year flood basin, meaning the implications of that, meaning that we are allowed to build on top. However, it's at our own risk, right? That doesn't mean we should or that it won't flood, but we are legally allowed to build on there. However, they did highly recommend that if we do build anything, we should have some sort of engineer go out to delineate the flood basin, find the boundaries, conduct any soil tests, etc. And so when looking at now that we finalized the contract for the garage, we've had a lot of events where we just don't have enough parking, right? We have an overflow of parking, we have a shortage of parking, and so we do need to at some point repave the parking lot, potentially expand it. But for that, it boils down to we don't know which part of the property we can use. So I reached out to this group known as Rudiger and Tonelli. They were a group that actually worked with the architect when they were creating the concept plan for the garage, so they have a lot of the details already. But I asked them, I sat down with them in a meeting, I asked them for a proposal of what it would look like to create an engineering plan for an expanded parking lot. And they came back to me with a proposal that is in the packet. They are now known as the Will Group, no longer Rudiger and Tonelli, but they gave me a concept plan for how much it would cost to find the boundaries of the wetland, further studies, and then finally a concept plan for additional parking, etc. So it is a good chunk of money, I will admit. However, I did ask them if they'd be flexible on the timeline, the fee schedule, and they said yes. They don't need to receive the money all at once. This could be a portion of it, if we were to approve it, a portion of it, today, a portion in a couple months, a portion of the new fiscal year. But this is the proposal they gave me. Again, my opinion is that we do eventually, as the township, need to bite the bullet because we have all this property. We have any potential ideas for anything we want to build. We're limited by the flood basin. That leads into my next point, which is a potential approval for this concept plan. I'll open it up for discussion to the board.
I think now that we're moving forward with the garage, we always kind of figured that eventually, we know we have to repave the parking lot, so it would be great to expand it. And sure enough, obviously we find out that we get a big absurd floodplain in that. So there's no way around it. We almost have to have these studies done, in my understanding. And I think expanding the parking lot is going to be a benefit for future use of the system. So I would just say that invite the board, and we're going to give it some type of payment plan to move everything forward with it.
Any other thoughts on
And it comes in just under 30, so we don't have to worry about any renovating.
correct? And it's also, it falls under the category of professional services.
Is that what line item from the budget would come out of?
Sorry, did you repeat
Would it
that?
come out of projects?
Sure. So this, we have line items for engineering of 10,000 in town and in FEMA, so that's 20,000. The remaining 10,000, or the remaining, I think it's like 8,000 or 9,000, it could come out of projects, or again, we could wait until the next fiscal year for it to come out. For full disclosure, when I did speak with them, originally, ideally, I was hoping for the parking lot to be expanded end of this year, right, so we could start this while the garage is being built. They did tell me, though, that if, let's say, they were to start this plan tomorrow, we wouldn't be able to build anything until about the spring of next year. So they'd finish this up by the early spring of next year, which is still within the terms, but that's part of why the fee schedule is flexible. Any further thoughts before we go to a vote? All right, well, hearing none, could I entertain a motion to approve the township conference plan?
I'll make a motion to approve the township.
I have a motion by Dean Valley,
Second.
second by Lisa Sabino. Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Sabian?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Pickett?
Yes.
Savino?
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll move on to this increased security proposal. So this is a proposal that is in everyone's packet. So for this, some quick context is that our current security system is with Quinlan. So Quinlan, they actually meet with us on an annual basis, one just to do an annual inspection, but two just to meet and check in with us. Now, security, from my understanding, is that previous administrations have increased the security across the township in phases as opposed to all in one go. So, for example, last year, the township previously did not have cameras for example in our stairs. So if you go to the supervisor or the assessor's office, there are cameras not on the entrances, previously there wasn't. So So Quinlan came over and we thought of some potential ideas to increase security at the township. There's still ways to improve, but again, I don't want to propose everything in one go. This is just a proposal for what we could do for the next phase. So there's three things. So one, for cameras on the outside of the building, we have a camera on every single side of the township building except on the south side of the building, which is the side where...
And not this side either. We don't have coverage on these sides.
Okay,
We
well,
just see the
that's
back.
two sides. You can see the front, which is the east, and the back, which is the west.
Right.
But I think it's important if we had a camera on the south side of the building, specifically because there's high traffic with the food pantry. It is on the west. And we also have staff coming to that side, and we don't have a camera. So I think it'd be important if we had a camera installed there. Two other things, and these are related to kind of convenience, but so we have many entrances at the township. Like we have the main entrance over on the east side, and then we have the entrance into the canopy here on the west side. So those are the only two doors that could be, well, the door on the north side is the only door that could be opened via a key fob. The door at the front can't be opened via a key fob. That's not as important, but those two doors are the only doors that have a magnetic lock system. So those can be opened, and closed and locked remotely. However, the door on the south side of the building, that doesn't have a key fob. You have to physically manually open it with an actual key. Similarly, the door on the west side of the building, which is a door that we use, one, for maintenance, two, we have the vendors come in through that door when we have big events like the expo, and then three, that's the door we also have the kids from the high school and the teachers come. So if anyone needs access to the community room, they come in through that west door. But again, that's a door that can only be opened via a manual key. So the remaining two proposals are that, one, we give key fob access to those two doors, and then the third is that we remove the mechanical locks and install the modern magnetic locks, so we can also remotely lock and open those doors. So the total cost is at the bottom of the proposal. It's a little over $11,000 in terms of long-term costs. We are currently paying, security per month. We're billed quarterly. The increased amount we could bill would be an additional $15 per month for service and maintenance, and then additional for the doors would be $25 per month. That's the quarterly. In total per year, that's for $50 per month, that's $696 per year. For the doors, that's $300 per year, or a little under $1,000 a year. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts?
One thing, I'm sorry, you get the cameras on both sides, and then fob entries at all entries, and then install magnetic locks, which were the three?
So they will, right now the proposal is just to put a camera on the south side, so the side of the
Okay.
We did not propose the camera on the north side yet, but that could be the next phase.
Okay.
So are we currently paying per month or quarterly? Is this additional or is this a new amount?
This would be additional.
Okay.
The exact amount, I don't have it, but we did recently pay it, so it should be top of the list. I can get the fee instead. But correct, that additional $1,000 would be an addition to what we paid. I did find it, so we currently pay $530, $530 for the quarter, so multiply that times 4, I guess that's about $2,000.
I will comment that I do think it's very important to have them on the south and north side because there's been 2 employees that have been hit with the cars have been hit. One was fortunate enough that someone witnessed it, the other one was not. So,
good point. Well, if the board wanted to approve this proposal today, we could do that, and then I could ask them for an additional proposal, and then we could review that at the September meeting. Does anyone have any opinions or thoughts before we go to the vote? All right, we're hearing none. If I can entertain a motion to approve the increased township security program.
I'll make a motion with the, Cameron security system. Upgrade.
A motion by Dean Morales,
I'll second it.
and a second by Dean Salvino. Any last questions? All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, I please have a roll call.
Salvino? Yes. Morelli?
Yes.
Sapien?
Yes.
Pickett?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on now to the next page of this little project known as the Veterans Honor Roll Class. So this little project, I've spoken with both the Director of Veterans Affairs that has a standby officer at the township, but for a little bit of context, I visited Troy Township where I met with their supervisor and their administrator, and I was telling them about the recent veterans display cabinet we had here at Lockport Township, and they actually showed me kind of their version of how they honor veterans, and one is where they have a nice plaque on the wall. It's not the best picture, so forgive me. But they have this plaque up on the wall. Now this is a township official that who's a veteran who passed away, that they decided to honor him having a plaque, but the basis of it is that they have about 80 slots, and what they do is they have a form. And any residents in the township who are veterans, who are veterans, they can fill out the form. It's just basic information, their name, their address, the time they served. And once they turn in their application, we create a little name tag for them. Well, it's through a vendor. And then that name tag is displayed on the plaque, which goes on the wall. Now, depending on volume, but usually they will actually call that veteran in, and they actually just get a quick little they get a couple of seconds to talk at one of the township meetings where they get honored and get a little certificate. So I thought this was a really cool project to take on, and I was thinking if we did get this approved, we could start collecting applications and then even formally unveil it at the Veterans Day this summer. So I did include, so I reached out to the same vendor that did this for Troy Township. And so it comes out to a little about $800. Just about $850 for one. And I want to, I'll open it up for discussion from the board. Right. This would be for active. I did ask them a question that for veterans who have passed away, they said that their kind of limit that they put is if they passed away within the past 3 months and they lived in the township, they still get a name tag. But I am open to the idea we could have 2 plaques. One would be for folks that have passed away with honor and posthumously, and then the other would be for current members. But this is where I'm open to discussion moving forward.
How many do we typically get to come to the dinner? I'm just curious, like, I feel like we have more than we
Yeah,
have on
and I thought so too, because there's 80 slots. So at the dinner, we have about 150 people that show up, but half of them are spouses. Now, I did reach out to the Veterans Affairs Director, and I asked him how many veterans, are in the township. He couldn't give me an exact answer, but he said that there was roughly about 1,500 veterans in the city of Lockport. But that's just the city. They don't have information about township.
No, veterans that are still alive.
Oh.
Veterans that would be active when they're in.
I remember 1 or 2 days or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, like too many?
Well, we haven't been overwhelmed with material coming in for the veterans cabinet. I took in some memorabilia for when Tony wasn't there to hold on to it, and, you know, it's a very nice display cabinet, and it hasn't been, you know, tons of it coming in. It's whether or not who chooses to participate in it.
And there's some people that don't like the recognition.
Exactly,
Don't
exactly.
want
So,
it.
you know, it could be an option, I suppose.
We see the process of that, so.
yes.
Right,
And I did,
Family do that, right? Not black and stuff.
Depends.
I did recently acquire a copy.
I mean, and then could you have a donation that goes with it? Can you see that in the videos?
You're not getting anything but the recognition up there. It's gonna stay up there, right? Okay, so the banner program at the city, you get your banner. You'll see the capability.
Only 11 bucks in the shop.
Yeah, so that would, Nicole would suggest. And like the city, the hero banners are 150. Once the banner's still in good shape, after the season gets back, you know. But that, those banners cost a lot for production, you
Yeah, I
know.
think it'd be a question for Larry. I mean, what's more the money, it's going to be a cost of the program.
Or is it more like we're gonna sponsor for them?
I think the original idea, so I did very recently get the sample application for township, and I'm happy to send it to the board. But I think it's just, this, Troy Township does offer, this is like a free service. Now, I don't know what the veteran population looks like compared to Lockport Townships, but I could ask our veterans affairs director. But as far as what the application looks like, it's pretty straightforward. It's just the veteran's name, address, date of birth, branch of service, enlistment, date of enlisted, discharge, and then name/contact info of non-major officials of the trust. And then the bottom part is just requirements. And then the front is just a little bit of context for info.
And then is that up to Tony to verify all the information is correct and that the person
Yeah, who's the
you know what I mean?
Sure. No, this would be a township sponsored program. Like we do this in coordination with Tony to say, hey Tony, this is your area of expertise. Is this something you'd like up on your wall next to your office? But all of the purchase of the plaque, the receiving of applications, all of that would be handled by the township supervisor's office.
One of the requirements is DD 214.
Yes. Here, township copy of this page will be 214. I'm happy to pass this on. Again, I'll scan this as well. The requirements are at the bottom.
I think one of the big issues would be not to get overdone. I mean, you don't want to let people know you're out of space or, you know, so I don't know. I mean, it's a great idea to come up somehow with flags like that on all the servicemen and women. Like I said, maybe talking to Tony and getting a better idea. Feel as what would be the best option.
And then, okay, I can ask the veterans affairs for that. And then how do we feel about who to honor, whether it's people that have also passed away, or if it's just current and retired members? How do we feel about that?
How does Troy Township do it?
Troy Township only does it for retired members.
Yeah.
Not Essex.
You know how many people that have died that have recently got them?
I just bring that up because
Right.
I would also feel bad if somebody really wanted their partner's name on the wall and they said, sorry, we won't.
Right.
That's
Yeah, because Lockport, like, they limit their hero banners only do so many per year.
Okay.
You know, and then you're eligible to submit your family member or yourself for the following year. So it's ongoing, but those banners come down. It's a recognition from, you know, from Memorial Day weekend to Veterans Day. So then those come down.
Yeah.
I run a program right to the veterans and war wall. So we're talking $200 for a piece. I think it's crap, and you can design it how you want, but then if you use it fix, maybe 30% of the veterans that you have, but not everything.
Right.
And you don't have the art for it and files of it, but you can get it from here.
We do that too, because one of the things that Tony had mentioned is possibly putting this in the newsletter. I do think that we're going to be not refuse of that. But I think at the very least mentioning that the veterans are just so people are aware of this. If you don't put it anywhere, then you won't get any right action. Okay. So what I'm hearing from the board is that we like this idea, but we'd like to know a little bit of this information before we order the plaques and we determine the size of it. So I think for that, how about we just table this item? So can I get a motion to table the veteran on the plaque to the next one?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Dave Baldino,
Second.
second by Dean Morelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I will list table for next month. I will find out that information. Moving on now to our next item. So, I have 3 sheets for everyone. This is regarding the village of Wilmerville. So 2 are flyers that are in your packet. And then after that, there's a spreadsheet that's labeled support for city projects that follows afterwards if everyone has that spreadsheet. So just want to provide everyone with some context. But the board recent budget meeting, we did approve a sum total of about $20,000 to allocate between the 3 main municipalities in the township. That's about $1,000 for miscellaneous events in the township, and then a little over $6,200 for each main municipality. So quick little review is for Crest Hill, they haven't had any major events that we've been able to sponsor. City of Lockport, there's the annual car shows and the Christmas in the Square event. We've already actually recently supported them with $6,000. And then Romeoville, we supported them with the Bunny Bash event for $500 and Romeo Fest for $2,000. So they have a remaining amount of a little over $3,800. So we still have some left. The Village of Romeoville, I am in contact with them, and they let me know about upcoming events. Sounds like the main 3 events coming up from now until the end of the year are 1, the Hispanic Heritage event, 2, the Halloween Fest or the trunk retreat they have in October, and then 3, the annual Christmas event, which we usually sponsor with like a light sponsorship. So if we did want to have a presence there, and by that I mean like have a table, hand out any items, talk to residents, etc. For first event, it would need to be an amount of $750. For the trunk or treat, I had written down $200, but the village let me know today, very recently, that because we're a government entity, we qualify as not-for-profit, so we need $100. With that, I'll open it up to the board for discussion.
I'd say no problem with that. Let's go ahead.
So in that case, if I could please entertain a motion to support the Village of Romeoville with $750 for Hispanic Heritage and $100 for the trunk or treat event.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Greg Dickus,
I'll second it.
second by Denise Baldino. Madam Clerk, please have a roll call.
Baldino? Yes. Dickus?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Bajan?
Yes. Thank you, motion carries. And again, there are the dates on these events. I'll try to send out an email to remind everyone, but obviously everyone here on the board, they're invited to take part and participate.
I'm sorry, when did you say the trunk or treat was?
October 18th. October 18th.
Okay, that's the day after us.
And then the Hispanic Heritage, like I said, is that Hispanic Heritage is on September 20th. Both of these are at Deer Crossing Park, which is the park right next to the village.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for our approvals. I have a little bit of some new business. So first is our mental health update. So I did receive this invoice. Now, just for some more context, we did approve at the July meeting to transfer funding $40,000 to continue supporting this program. Now, quick note is that this is the invoice for the month of June. Because what usually happens is I get the invoice for this on like the 5th or the 6th day, and then our finance manager in the office takes about 2 days to go through every line, make sure there are no inconsistencies. So that's why it's not able to go on the agenda for that month. But this is for the month of June. I did want to point out that total charges were about $3,600, and again, this is prior to the transfer of $40,000. Coincidentally, this $3,600, Matt, if you remember, there was $10,000 left of funds. There was about $3,600 left. This is the last remaining $3,600 have to be used up by this month. Any questions on mental health?
I don't have a question, but I just was going to comment. I know we did extra money for that service, and I just wanted to note that we already stated mental health under property tax. Everybody is aware of that. But I just thought that I wanted to know that that reason that we already paid, and for another $40,000 taxpayers would like to count it again after they're already paying for it under property tax. I understand that that's the reason why we're doing that.
No, I understand, and I think everyone has a right to vote yes or no. I completely understand and respect that. I do want to point out that I share the same sentiment, that I do realize that there is an additional levy on everyone's property taxes that they're paying. That was a referendum that was passed at the county level. I will say that's kind of the end goal that the townships and the fire districts have been working towards. Right now, the money that the county is collecting via this levy is being used to pay for some miscellaneous health bills and just some mental health board that's off the ground. But they're still a ways away from providing what I would consider, vast legitimate services. But I think the idea that we've been discussing with the townships is let's roll this out through the townships, and then the idea would be like all the supervisors and then the fire districts would go over to the county committee meetings and say, hey, look, we've been paying this out of township dime, and we have a program that works. You guys are collecting tax money. You guys should take over this and make it county-wide. That way, the township gets that money, and you can use the levy that you're using the tax money to pay out. So, no, I agree with that. I just would like to clear up that the $18 or $20 people are paying on their tax bill isn't currently being used to fund these types of counseling services. And I also have a little bit out of mental health. I have that on the GA agenda, but there's a possibility, and I'll be working on a project with the attorney, but there's a possibility that this program could be funded through GA, through GA funding. But I'll talk about that at our GA meeting. Any other questions or thoughts? Hearing none, we'll move on to the newsletter. So, quick update on the newsletter. So, let's see, our last newsletter, the first ever summer newsletter came out and was mailed the last week of June. So, the second, the last week of June, we were lucky enough that was enough time to advertise the back to school fair. That does, however, mean that the annual fall newsletter, which usually goes out the first week of September, and that's the newsletter that's used to advertise for the senior breakfast at the Veterans Center. We did have to start that just a few weeks later. Now, I have reached out to formally our former newsletter vendor, which is known as Allegra in Coal City, who does currently still do our printing for our miscellaneous items like letterheads and business cards. I had spoken with them, frankly, on the business side, saying, hey, look, we have this other printer that did our summer newsletter. They were a guinea pig. They offered us this newsletter for a little under $12,000. They got the printing and mailing done in under a week. Can you match or give us a similar proposal? So it took them, I will say, quite a bit, almost a full month to get back to me, and that was after I checked in with them. But they essentially told me in an email, hey Alex, thanks for the opportunity, but we can't even come close. I said, okay. So this was in July, and again, to get the fall newsletter out, we need to start like mid-July. So I reached out to TUI because I wanted to find out, I reached out to several others. I wanted to find out, am I allowed to do the fall newsletter with the forest printing vendor, given that we've already done it. So I've had some discussion with folks. So it's a little all over the place, but it boils down to, originally I was told by TUI that a project like this does not need to go out to bid. And I've spoken with other townships that they do not have to go out to bid, mainly because they consider each newsletter its own individual project. Okay? So hearing that, and because there's urgency, I decided to have this newsletter go out through forest printing. We're in the final stages. I'm anticipating we approve and print and mail this by the end of next week. However, we do then have the winter newsletter that would come up later this year, and then of course the spring. So that would pull that up to 4. So as far as now, we will have 2 newsletters with Allegra and Full City. We would have 2 newsletters for forest printing. Now, I understand that there are some thoughts about this project that needs to go out to bid. My personal opinion is that I would personally prefer if we kept the newsletter all for forest printing. However, I do want to be fully transparent, right, that I want to be straight as an arrow. And I have spoken with the attorney that this was allowed. However, I have no relationship with this printer. There's no conflict of interest at all of any sort. They were referred to me by another township. So if the board does feel strongly that they'd like to go out to bid, I can be receptive to that as well. But the first, update on the newsletter. The second, I want to open up the discussion regarding the newsletters and going out to bid.
I'm all for printing at the lowest price we possibly can to get the information out there. Like I talked to you about, I got different information from COI, and they told me that it absolutely needs to go out to bid because all 4 add up to more than $30,000. You were given different information, so that's where that was. So, and then, as from a project, we were told our attorney was against the whole process, so that's what was the same product.
Do you mind if I ask, did you have the newsletters?
For reference,
Oh, gotcha.
email out.
And are those different versions every time, like a newsletter, or are they identical?
No, it's a different.
Do we have any other thoughts from the other board members?
I was just going to say, COI sometimes depending on who you talk to, will say one thing and then somebody else says another. So I don't know, the 2 of you probably shouldn't be trouble when you talk to. There's too many people. You have to call them sometimes about certain things. Sometimes the one says one thing and the other, because we had a lot of calls for the Sunmill in the beginning when this was going on, when the previous supervisor was here, in regards to trying to structure everything, and one was telling me one thing, the other one was telling me another thing.
Right.
So,
I will say to you, for what it's worth, anytime you do reach out to TOI, whether it's email or call, I swear the last thing they always say, either email or phone, is,
check with your attorney.
this is not legal advice, check with your
Yeah.
attorney. So then I check with our attorney. But again, so for full transparency, where I'm trying to stand with this is, I agree that, yes, we should find the absolute lowest responsible bidder, right? That makes sense. If this vendor that we have gave us an amazing price and it's done very good. However, theoretically, there's someone that's better, then it can only benefit the township residents because now we're cutting our costs down. My only hesitancy is that, do we get to a point where reducing that cost also compromises quality, right? Because price is very important, but I personally feel that the delivery, the printing is, I prioritize it a bit higher than cost, right? If let's say this vendor force printing happens to be $500 more than the lowest bidder, but the lowest bidder prints it out in 2 weeks, or they do it in a week and a half, but then they don't put the addresses on the back, so now we're losing a good chunk of people. That's where my
And where do you draw the line? Because like for shingle shops and stuff like that, there's all kinds of manufacturers you have to shop. You know what I mean? Like where do you start drawing the line?
There's a difference.
I know.
There's a big difference between shoe shops and
Like do you have to go, no, but do you have to choose, like, because I really don't know. You know, I just know a lot about healthcare, since I am a healthcare worker too, but there's all different kinds of brands. Like, do you have to shop for that? Like, how does that, is that out of a line item and that's that?
So for this project specifically, which is you create a big spec specifically for a construction project, you say, hey, this is,
Does it have to be published?
I have to be published.
Just like
So this is
other bid openings,
like
okay.
everything else, and you say, this is the paper quality I want, this is the ink I want, this is how it's going to be designed, this is the quantity we need, this is the milling that we're expecting. And it's all, and I can, it's all, this is not a, I'm not reinventing the engine, this is not an easy project. For us, we really are, we need a lot, you know. But again, you might be able to get them to charge the project by $500 as well. Again, understanding there's a timing, there's a legal aspect of timing as well. I don't think it's ever been bid out, but I also understand that we have another reason there. There's now people still in the project.
But it was out, I can tell you the cost was probably over.
Yeah, for sure.
It was, with just one, it was like 25 grand.
Just opening the door for, you know, and and it's putting all this most responsible, most qualified bidder. You know, somebody comes in 500 asking for some of the work, you know, and it's there.
So where do you, okay, so you do this, okay. And because I run these bid openings, how many people do you actually get typically that will bid for this?
For sure. I've
Yeah.
had 23 applicants come in before.
Okay, where is that published so you can, because I got, when that goes there, we get a lot for this. But when we had garage, and it had to just go, the rules are, it has to go in a local publication, right? One time.
Right. So you get
Like you're in anything.
we get vendor lists. So we do all the local publications we have to do, by law.
Yeah.
And then you send it to the board, you send it to.
Oh, we're not allowed to do that.
No?
No, that's illegal. Yeah, that's illegal, yeah.
That was part of the problem, like the grant.
Right.
We should have been,
You knew of some people.
you know,
who
garage
thought-
doors, there's 9 million garage doors out there.
But
Right.
you can't.
You can't, because then you're considering soliciting, you could leave out somebody.
In theory, you
That's
can't
what-
tell them.
When I was going with Farmer, they've got they have to have a bid list. And they have to have a bid house.
My question would be, would any printing companies know to look there? You know, that's where it's confusing.
Well,
Do they
next week
know?
I said about the grass, I'm like, well, who's looking in the Herald News, which is really not.
Well, right, it's changed over time for sure. Well, the township's always like forever been putting in there, right? And,
I used to think
my gosh,
papers
we got the
just put
bid
it
so
there.
many times, they should have
I don't
known
even
by
find it
now.
delivered anymore. And I
Yeah.
couldn't find it online. You put it on your website. You put it on your website. All of
We were
our
required to
contractors-
only put it on one publication.
So all of our contractors are on our website.
You will go on the website as well? Okay.
Part of the deal with this issue is important for because you correctly pointed out, we had one.
Right.
So that was in part, when I made my discussion to this people, mentioning that, when they went, well, yeah, you didn't have a way that you couldn't have done it with all of them to get that long.
Right.
Now, with how
This is what your
successful
plan
it's
is.
been, now you can probably put out the bid knowing you're going to have four. Where in the past, like Aaron said, we had one, or you wait, and we really struggled to get two for many, many, many years.
Because there could be some printing companies in the area that we're not even aware of that could do a bang up job
And then
that are
we have-
actually in our township.
We have to also, then it has to be a required parameters of prevailing wage shop as well.
And also then you're going to, sort of the collective thing, you're going to have to include in there how many pages you want. Part of it was that the old vendor.
Everybody has to be parallel, right?
Half as many pages as what
Right.
this particular vendor was able to do for less money. So
Yeah.
all those went into the initial determination that we really didn't have to bid this time. But if the board should go forward and know we're going to have three or more, and we total all together, it's more. Then just to be safe.
35 is commercial.
Yeah, so just to be safe, then yes. But when we were doing it kind of piecemeal, where we went from a different one to the new one, that was part of the reason, at least that I got from the people in COI, was like,
Saying, hey,
they were okay
good.
this time, but they said if you ever get them all together in one, and you know you've got three or four, then three or four
On a
together.
three project,
it's not
right.
gonna-
Ours went from 20 to 30,
it's
20,000.
to 30,000, yeah.
Yeah, 20, January 1st, so we might fall in the first
Yeah.
So.
But we're still, if we have three or four, we're still.
Well, and either way, if you split with 2 and 2, the one company would always, it'll be 50, close to 50, which is like, if you had this one and this one, the one would probably come close to the 35,000, which I did not hear that, I don't know that, you gotta send it to me, please. And then the other one is closer to 50, so.
I would just say, we have to, fill out the bid, the way we do it, there's a good chance you guys are gonna be the only guys that bid, if there is somebody else that will deal with it. But I mean, I think it's all time, because, how long is it gonna take to fill out a bid?
Yeah, because what happens if you don't get any responsible bidders?
It would be down, so,
Do they have a school?
I'm not sure how it works. There are union printers,
That's it.
and called union printers, like shops and
I'm
everything.
just saying,
Can you,
they have that school.
can you publish it in our, because we have a general email that we publish our bid on the general email.
No, because it's not everybody
Yeah,
else.
exactly.
No. Yes. It's
Yeah,
issued.
you gotta adopt it.
And then also eliminates people that don't, discriminatory or those that don't have email. But here's the other thing that I would be concerned with, if we go out to bid, because I have the experience in these, with doing the bid opening, if we don't get any bidders, that's a problem. If then we, don't necessarily, okay, say we get a bidder, and now we're paying more, that's a problem. Obviously, you can't control that, so. But the biggest concern I would have is if we don't get any bidders, and we have time-sensitive material that needs to get to our public. So this really needs to definitely get to the bottom of it. Do we really need to do this, or do we really not? Because this is time-sensitive information. We are putting these out to provide the public with the information they need to know. And I have to have 10 days, it's got to be 10 days prior to a bid opening, so I've got all these rules that have to be followed, right? We have to paint it, put the bid ad in to the local publication, and that's what we've been doing, and that's one complication that also has to be considered. Because if this keeps on going, well, we're on a bid opening, well, we have nothing.
in the past,
Sure, no, that's again done.
in the past, we've never had a bid process.
For the newsletter? Correct.
So, we had nobody come to us and say, you need to have, this is us, what we need to have.
Just making sure we're not in violation of it.
Right.
That was my innocent
Right.
question.
And then we get different opinions from different sources. Whether we do it or not. I say we don't. And if we get questioned, we do it, but if none of it. But we haven't been questioned over 30 years about this system. So, someone's going to come forward and say, hey, I don't know. But, like I said, with all this time sensitive stuff, we can't delay this. I mean, this has got to go on. So if we initiate this bidding process, and Greg said we kind of disapproved of this ordinance, they might put us in time, then, my opinion is, don't go out, don't do it.
One thing we could potentially do, it's just a thought, is we could have this go up to bid, and then, because I think we have the right to reject all bids. So if we don't get any bids, say, hey, we tried, it's urgent, we're going to go with 4 things for now, maybe we'll give up the bid again. Yeah, that's really my only thought process, just to cover our bases.
Once you start bid processing, so you have to keep up.
If the numbers are there and you justify it. So what you might do is you do this one, and then the next one, you're going to go out to bid for all, or many uses that you're going to have. 3 or 4.
That would be my suggestion, is that we do the one
This
we
one.
got, yeah, I mean, go out to the owners, okay, so it's back, 35 is still there.
30 is us.
Right.
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
But,
I see what you're saying, so to put more than one on there to go out to bid for this letter, winter letter, spring letter, summer letter.
and we can put a renewable clause in there, right?
Sure, but then we're well beyond the 30. So that would make sense.
Oh, yeah.
But then we could do it as a.
But then
for all
time
4 of them.
issues,
Good point.
but I'm telling you, I don't even see people even bidding on this. It would be hard.
Well, they scare us. Forest away because maybe we, there's a multi-bidder act.
We got a recommendation from the township. It's by then I get really private. So I mean, you have some, you know, so I do, but the fact is that we got, I mean, no, we look from there.
Right, how many townships go out to bid for the new bar, do you know?
No, Lockport Twp is the one. They did one, they were in touch with our group, they were in Michelle.
Don't use, hate press engine, you know, and like that.
But they always go out to bid, even though they did the one year, but probably because of the parameters they set for the bid.
As long as we can meet time constraints, because nothing was worse than having this information that be relevant.
Oh, for sure. And I think the winter one especially has some urgency because you miss it by a week or two and everyone's getting it during Christmas and then I do it right away. So,
We're not hearing them, right? So we're going to go in our next meeting and then it's something in the year. You can run and have a, you know, that whole contract you for the whole 2025. And then you can put a clause in there that's renewable for up to 3 years with no more than 3% increase. I mean, I think, I've got it back.
I was going to say, do you have expect to do with when that's meeting, that's a good start? Please?
I think we should go with forest for the remainder of this year, put it out to bid for next year.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Basically, everyone is agreeing with the trustees to either wait till next year, continue with forest, or not bid it. So everybody's on the same page for this year.
Okay.
That's good to know. Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on now to upcoming events. So this one, I'd like to just gauge some interest. So Millerville has their Founders Day Parade. It's on a Sunday, January the parade, September 15th at 2 p.m. I did include that information in the little packet. Now, now that parade is free of charge, so if you'd like to enter, you can. It's completely free. Now I know we do usually march in the Canal Day Parade, so I thought this was a good idea. But again, I also acknowledge that it's not exactly the best day or even best time of the day. So I would like to march in it, but I also don't want to be the only one that marches in it. So I want to gauge interest from the board to see if anyone's interested.
I will be available that day.
I'm not, I have.
That's okay. All right. I think we'll try. Do you want to? Good. We'll
It's a shame because I got a really great. Motion is not carried.
We'll try again next year. So, okay. All right. Well, I have actually have 3 events. There's one that I forgot to put on here. But one is Carillon Lakes. They reached out to me very, very recently, and they let me know that they're having a health fair, kind of similar, kind of like a mini version of our senior expo, but they're having it at Carillon Lake Courthouse. They invited the township to participate and have a table. The date is on Friday, September 6th, from 9 a.m. to noon. Very eagerly accepted, and of course I send invitations to the rest of the board. Next item is White Oak Library. Traditionally, every year they have an event known as Grandparents' Day. That's usually in August. I think this time they're stepping away from Grandparents' Day and they're having an event instead called, this is their inaugural Fall Fest. This will be on Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, I accepted. This event did not have charge, did not have a cost or entrance fee at all. So I accepted, and again, I extend the invitation to the rest of the board. And then there's two things that I wanted to bring up. So one, I had mentioned previously when we were discussing events with other municipalities that we haven't supported anything with Presco yet because they haven't had any big events. Now, I did actually, I've been chatting with them over the past couple of weeks, and I received some news just yesterday. They actually invited me to speak with them at their work meetings. Basically just for meetings, just like we have, but they can't vote. And so we discussed that traditionally we, the township, we have a shred event in the fall. And so they thought it would be a nice idea is if this shred event, which would have been in that festival area anyways, rather than be at one of the parks, we could have it at the Cresco at City Hall, and that they'd be happy to split the cost for that. So traditionally, shred events are about $1,500. They said that they'd be happy to have it at the city, and then we would just split the cost. I have a tentative date for October 26th. October 26th from 9 a.m. Just wanted to give the board a heads up, because if they do finalize that, it will likely be in the newsletter that goes out at the end of this month. Oh yeah, one more thing. If the board may recall that earlier this year, I think it was in early April, we had a township presentation of our Claremont Lakes that we tentatively called the State of the Township. So the news spread, and I've been in communication with Grand Haven and also Carolina Community. So they'd like for us to have a similar presentation there. Now, Carolina, we're still figuring out the potential date. For Grand Haven, we have a tentative date. Still need to be confirmed. Format has not yet been formally confirmed, but I have a feeling we'll confirm that soon. But the date for Grand Haven will be October 1st, 2024, and that will be at 7 p.m. And again, the format for that will be to be determined, but I would imagine it would be similar to the format at Fairmont Lakes. And of course, the rest of the board is invited. And I bring this up because there's a good chance that it will be in the newsletter. Any questions or thoughts? Moving on to old business. So old business, we had Lono Fest that just happened earlier this month from August 1st to 4th. It's a great event, a little hot, okay. The community day with the police department that we supported, that was on August 3rd, which was Saturday. And then another item that I didn't get a chance to put on here was the back to school fair. The back to school fair held by the township was on July 17th from 3 to 6 p.m. We had 100 spots open and all 100 were filled up. Sounds like that was the perfect amount because we only had about 10 people or so on the waiting list. We had the library there, the fire department, police, and also the park district. And I say it went very, very well. It went very well. We even got a few emails from people that were very thankful. Because it went very well. So I would encourage the board again, the new board, to then have the same event next year. I think the only tweak I would suggest was that we probably shorten it from 3 to 5 p.m. About 90% of the people who showed up in 3 and 4. Between 3 to 5 p.m. After 5, we have a repeat. Cool. All right, any final questions or comments? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Alvina.
Second.
Second by Greg Pickett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Council meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We'll move on to the senior fund. So for senior fund, the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the monthly meeting of July 9th, 2024. I will need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Alvino,
Second.
second by Greg Dickus. All those any questions on the minutes? Alright, hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the bills, we have bills in the amount of $38,817.10. I will need a motion for the bills.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Alvino,
Second.
second by Greg Dickus. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please have a roll call?
Fabian?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Tracus?
Yes.
Salvino? Yes.
Motion carries. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board tonight in regard to the senior fund? Hearing and seeing none, move on to the bus report and new business. So for the bus report, this time around I have two documents in the packet, but they're pretty straightforward. So the first is labeled senior bus report for the exhibit A and exhibit B. The same exhibits we've had every month. So for the month of July, we have 548 trips. The bus is in operation 22 business days in July, which brings our average rides per day to 24 points. Now, if we look at exhibit B, this brings our rides over time, our average rides per month. In the previous month, it was at 506. This past month, it increased now to 512. So now if we look at the percentage, it's 81%, so we're operating at 81% capacity as we were before COVID, which was back in 2019. We then look at the next page, labeled Exhibit C. This is a new little chart I have, but now that we have an additional 6-7 months of data, I looked at the average ride per day from January to July of 2023, and I saw that we're at about 24.1 rides per day, and if we compare it to that same time period in 2024, we're up a little bit to 25.2. So far, we've seen a growth of about 5%. So that is very good to see. If you look at the bottom two, we can see that rides per day tend to be more seasonal. We see more rides during the warmer months, which makes sense, but overall the trend line is positive. So I think we'll continue to see growth. Now, there is eventually going to be a cap because there is a limit on how many riders we can have, because there's only a limited amount of seats, a limited amount of appointments we can take, but this at least indicates that people are continuing to use the service. Any questions on the bus report? And now we move on to the update on the new buses. So, update on new buses. I want to remind the board that we did receive the new buses back in June, a few days after our June board meeting. Now, my staff and I, we did find that there were some defects that did thankfully fall under the warranty for the buses. So both of the buses went to the shop. One of the buses did come back. We have it in the garage. The second bus is still in the shop, and we're currently waiting for parts. But we did reach out to our local center that does the pay for the buses, all the vinyl, etc., and that is almost done. They were up for a period of time, but one of our buses would be ready to go soon. But again, that second bus is still in the shop. We're hoping to get it back to the next month. And then once we do, again, I'll let the board know, and we can make a decision of what we do ultimately with these 4 buses, whether we keep one, sell 2, etc. Other than that, I have no other business. Does anyone have any final questions or comments? Hearing none, could I entertain a motion to adjourn the senior fund meeting?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Alvino. Second by Greg Dickus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Senior fund meeting is adjourned. Now for the last meeting of the night, I have general assistance fund. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the monthly meeting of July 9th, 2024. I will need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Alvino. Second by Greg Dickus. Do we have any questions on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the bills. I have bills in the amount of $21,931.24. I will need a motion for the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Denise Calvino,
Second.
second by Greg Vickers. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please have a roll call.
Calvino? Yes. Vickers?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Stevia?
Yes. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board tonight in regards to the general assistance fund? Hearing none, we'll move on to the GA reports. So we have two reports for GA. One is labeled the system activity report. One is labeled as grant disbursements. Again, these reports are generated individuals using software, and then I review them and compare them to the bill list. So for the month of July, we had a fairly busy month. So we had 16 applications come in. 2 of them are still in process because they're very recent. We had 14 that came in. Unfortunately, those 14 did not qualify for the general assistance program, but those 14 were then went through the emergency assistance process. Of those 14, 9 were eligible for emergency assistance, and then 5 were not eligible. Of those 9 that were eligible, the total aid added up to $6,021.44. Now, if we look at the grant disbursements page, we see that the total disbursement is actually $49.21.44. The reason for that discrepancy is because one person that was recently accepted for emergency assistance, we have not sent out that check yet. So they still need to send in their invoice. So that's why they're on the approval report but not on the disbursement. But then if we compare the grant disbursement come out 49.21, it does match up exactly to what's on the bill list. Any questions on the GA report? We move on. So there was one more item I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of just setting the stage for general assistance for the next couple of months. So I wanted to remind the board that general assistance, it's a fund that is currently very healthy financially, not just at Lockport Township, but many other townships, the majority of townships across Illinois. And so there's been a lot of talk and action with these townships and in Springfield about, what do we do with these funds. Recently, last year or about 2 years ago, there was a new rule or a new law that came into place that made GA restrictions a little bit flexible, and so it goes beyond just applications and assistance towards utilities. It now allowed for support through food pantries. So there was now recently after the beginning of this year that made things even more flexible. So this is one of the benefits of us being in the Metropolitan Township Association is we have frequent meetings with some of the really big townships. Like, for example, some of the townships in Cook County, one of them being Hanover Township, which has a budget that's closer to like 60 or 80 million, with really robust legal teams that are able to look in and stay up to date with all of these laws. So I have here a copy of the resolution that Hanover Township presented at one of the MTA meetings with the supervisors. And essentially Hanover Township, they drafted this resolution that, once approved by the board, it allows the General Assistance Department to use this General Assistance Fund towards additional programs that go beyond just utilities and food pantries because the public aid pool is updated. So what they used it specifically was for health services, like community health. They do have clinics and nurses on staff, and also for additional services for veterans. So that's why they used it. But speaking with them, looking more at the public aid code, and speaking with some nearby townships, specifically Penfield Township, we did read the public aid code, and one of the points in there mentions that health includes both physical and mental. So there is potentially, right, not saying it's close up, but there is potentially an argument to be made that the same resolution could be passed but to include mental health. The reason Hanover Township didn't include mental health is because they have their own levy for mental health. Similar to we have a senior levy, they have a mental health one, so they didn't need it. But this is a project I will be working on with the attorney. We'll see if it's possible, and if it is, then that means in a new fiscal year we'd be able to fund the mental health program for GA, just for the time being. I also want to point out that the GA fund is looking extremely healthy. And, I want to be as fiscally responsible as possible, but I also want to point out that the tax revenue we receive for GA is only about $9,000. Like, it's pretty low. Like, we could potentially zero it if it's at $9,000. We get a little over $400 in just property replacement tax. And unfortunately we've looked at different avenues, that's not something we can control. So our operational expenses on an annual basis average between $80,000 to $100,000, or we're getting $500,000 every single year, and we can't control that flow. So I bring this up because that's not me advocating to say let's just start spending money. That is me saying that we have these funds, and we have enough in reserves to fund additional services that would be very beneficial for the township. And some of them are currently being funded in town, like for example, the food pantry and mental health, but we could look at funding them in GA, which would then allow us to bring down the town tax budget. With that, in the next few months, I'll also be drafting up just a long-term GA plan of what services we could potentially draft up. Now, I also understand that the end of the term for this administration is coming up, so obviously it won't be binding, but it is something that we could at least look at implementing in the next couple of months. And if there is a new board, then they could decide to either keep it or scrap it or move it to consideration. But I do think it's important that we start strategizing how to use some of these funds responsibly. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, we're hearing none. I have no other business. Guys, I need a motion to adjourn the general assembly meeting.
I will make that motion.
I have a motion by Denise Salvino.
Second.
Second by Greg Dickus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good.